The Grand Hall of the Galactic Commonwealth stretched wider than 3 football fields. Its ceiling sparkled with tiny lights that perfectly mimicked the stars of each member world. Dr. Alan Wright stood at the entrance, his mouth slightly open. Beside him, Admiral Susan Taylor maintained her military composure, but even she couldn't hide the wonder in her eyes. "Close your mouth, Alan. You look like a tourist," Susan whispered. Alan adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform. "Sorry. It's just, we're actually here. Humans, at the center of galactic civilization. After decades of faster-than-light experiments and 5 years of contact with alien scouts, Earth had finally earned an invitation to join the Commonwealth, a coalition of over 300 advanced species. Remember why we're here," Susan said. "We represent all of humanity now." They walked toward the central platform, where representatives from dozens of worlds sat in tiered seating. Many alien eyes turned to watch them. Some blinked with multiple eyelids. Others had no eyes at all, just sensory organs that tracked movement. The Xorelian ambassador, a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms, stepped forward to greet them. Ambassador Zix was Earth's assigned mentor in Commonwealth politics. "Welcome, humans," Zix said. His translator device gave his voice a metallic echo. "Your timing is excellent." The council was just discussing primitive travel technologies. Alan glanced at Susan. That didn't sound like a warm welcome. They followed Zix to their seats, small chairs at the very bottom tier, marking their status as the newest, least important members. The head of the council, a gaseous being contained in an ornate floating sphere, spoke. "As we were saying, the recent archaeological findings on Beltanine revealed warp drive technology, similar to what the humans currently use. These artifacts date back approximately 15,000 years. Quite the museum pieces." Soft laughter rippled through the chamber. Susan stiffened. Alan put a hand on her arm. "Perhaps our new members would like to describe their fastest ships," called out a bulky, reptilian creature from the 3rd tier. "I understand they're quite proud of them." Alan stood, determined to show confidence. "Earth's latest vessels can reach speeds off barely half a light year per Earth day," interrupted Zix, "using enormous amounts of energy for such modest results." More laughter. "They haven't even mastered basic 5th-dimensional folding," added another alien. "They're bending space like children making paper airplanes." The chamber filled with various sounds of amusement, clicks, hums, and translator-rendered chuckles. "We've only recently developed this technology," Alan said, feeling his face grow hot. "With time." Of course," the council head interrupted. "Every species must crawl before walking. You'll catch up in a millennium or 2. Susan stood up. "Earth has made remarkable progress in just a few centuries. Our adaptability is charming," Zix cut in. "Like watching cosmic infants take their first steps." The meeting continued, but the human delegates were largely ignored. When questions about Earth arose, they were directed to Zix rather than Alan or Susan, as if they couldn't be trusted to answer correctly. 3 hours later, they retreated to their assigned quarters. "That was humiliating," Susan said once they were alone. Alan loosened his collar. "They treat us like we're stupid." "We're not stupid. We're just behind." Susan paced the room. "Did you hear them? 5th-dimensional folding. Some of them were talking about 6th-dimensional travel like it was common knowledge." Alan's communicator buzzed. It was a secure message from Earth. "Project Tesseract ready for final testing. Breakthrough achieved. Awaiting your return." He showed the message to Susan, a smile slowly spreading across his face. "Let them laugh," he said. "They have no idea what's coming." Back on Earth, in a hidden facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, engineer Frank Miller carefully adjusted the final components of the strangest ship ever built. Beside him, Dr. Olivia Carter watched the readings on her tablet. Power flow stable. Dimensional anchor holding. The experimental vessel didn't look impressive, a roughly cylindrical shape with odd bumps and angles that seemed almost haphazard. But its appearance was deceiving. "Are we ready?" Frank asked. Olivia nodded. "The Pathfinder is ready. 7th-dimensional transit is theoretically possible." "Good," Frank said. "Because from what I hear, we need to show the galaxy that humans aren't just the new kids on the block. We're the new kids who are about to change the game entirely." The underground facility hummed with activity. 1 mile beneath the Rocky Mountains, protected by layers of rock and security systems, Project Tesseract had been Earth's best-kept secret for 5 years. Frank Miller wiped sweat from his forehead as he checked the final connections on the ship's unusual engine. The U.S. Pathfinder didn't look like the sleek spaceships in movies. It was bulky in some places, too thin in others, with odd angles that hurt the eyes if you stared too long. "It's not pretty," Frank said to himself, "but it doesn't need to be pretty to work." Dr. Olivia Carter entered the engine room, her tablet displaying complex equations. Her normally neat ponytail was coming loose after 30 hours without sleep. "Final checks are complete," she said. "Are you ready to make history?" Frank nodded. "Let's hope the right kind of history. I don't want to be remembered as the guy who made a really big hole in Colorado." They walked together to the control center where 20 engineers and scientists waited at their stations. Large screens showed the Pathfinder from different angles. The ship sat in a massive chamber designed to contain any accidents. "Begin power-up sequence," Olivia ordered. Lights dimmed as power flowed into the Pathfinder systems. The dimensional core, a sphere of intertwined metals and crystals that had taken 3 years to build, began to glow with a blue light that didn't seem to follow normal rules. Sometimes the light appeared to bend in impossible directions. "Core temperature stable," called out one technician. "Dimensional anchors holding," said another. Frank checked his own readings. "Everything looks good. Ready for activation on your command, Dr. Carter." Olivia took a deep breath. This was the moment thousands of hours of work had built toward. If successful, they would change humanity's place in the universe forever. "Activate dimensional core." Frank pressed his hand against the scanner. The computer required both his and Olivia's authorization to proceed. Olivia did the same on her console. Authorization accepted. Core activation in 3, 2, 1. The blue glow from the Pathfinder intensified. Then something unexpected happened. The ship seemed to blur, as if they were looking at it through water. Then it appeared to be in multiple places at once, not moving, but somehow existing in slightly different positions simultaneously. Ghost-like copies of the Pathfinder overlapped with the real one. "What's happening?" Frank asked, checking his readings. "This isn't in our calculations." Olivia stared at the ship, her eyes wide. It's creating dimensional echoes. The ship exists partially in multiple realities at once." In the observation room next door, Communications Officer Nicole Johnson suddenly grabbed the edge of her console. Her eyes rolled back for a moment, then focused again. "I can feel it," she whispered. "Feel what?" asked the technician beside her. "The ship. It's alive somehow. I can sense its presence." The technician looked worried. "Should I call medical?" Nicole shook her head. "No, I'm fine. But something's happening that we didn't expect." Back in the main control room, the readings were going crazy. The dimensional core was stable, but it was producing effects they hadn't predicted. "Should we shut it down?" Frank asked. Olivia studied the data flowing across her screen. "No. Everything is within safety parameters. The ship isn't in danger. It's just doing more than we thought it would." The ghost images of the Pathfinder slowly faded until only the real ship remained, but now it seemed to glow with an inner light that shifted between colors that human eyes had never seen before. "We did it," Frank said quietly. "We've created something that can travel through the 7th dimension." Olivia nodded. "And maybe something more. The Commonwealth thinks we're cosmic infants. Wait until they see what the babies have built." At that moment, In the Commonwealth headquarters, a warning alarm sounded. A junior technician called for Ambassador Zix. "Sir, we've detected an unusual dimensional disturbance." "Where?" Zix asked. "Earth, sir. Something is happening there that our sensors can't fully analyze. It appears to be a 7th-dimensional event. But that's impossible. No one has mastered 7th-dimensional technology." Zix stared at the readings. It seems the cosmic infants are full of surprises. Meanwhile, at the diplomatic quarters, Admiral Taylor received an urgent message. Her face turned pale as she read it. "Alan, we have a problem. The Draconites have declared war on the Commonwealth, and Earth is on their target list." The Commonwealth Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from dozens of worlds spoke over each other as reports of Draconite fleet movements appeared on the main screen. Admiral Susan Taylor stood up from her seat in the lowest tier. "What kind of protection will Earth receive?" she asked, raising her voice to be heard. The Council head's floating sphere pulsed with red lights. "Earth is a new member with minimal strategic value. Our primary defenses will focus on core worlds with essential resources." Dr. Alan Wright joined Susan. "So you're abandoning us?" Ambassador Zix spread his four arms in what might have been a gesture of apology. "Not abandoning. Simply prioritizing. The Draconites have attacked without warning, and their fleet is massive. Even the Commonwealth cannot defend every world. We can offer thoughts and prayers," said a plant-like being from the second tier, its translator making the words sound sincere, while its body released amused-smelling spores. Susan's face hardened. "We understand. Earth will defend itself." As they hurried back to their quarters to arrange emergency transport home, Alan spoke quickly. "Susan, our conventional fleet has no chance against the Draconites. I've seen the Commonwealth's intelligence reports. Their ships have antimatter weapons and can manipulate gravity itself." "I know," Susan said, "but there's one option they don't know about." Alan's eyes widened. "Pathfinder. It's not ready. It hasn't even left its testing chamber. It's our only hope." 3 days later, Susan and Alan stood in the Pathfinder's control room with Frank Miller, Dr. Olivia Carter, and Colonel Ryan Bennett, Earth's top space combat officer. "The Draconite fleet has passed Jupiter," Ryan reported. "Our conventional defenses are in position, but they won't last long. We have perhaps 6 hours before they reach Earth." Frank gestured at the Pathfinder. "She's not ready for combat. We've barely figured out how to control the dimensional drive, let alone add weapon systems." "We've done what we could," Olivia said. "The ship now has 4 basic missile launchers and a rail gun. Not much compared to what the Draconites have, but it's something." Susan looked at each person in the room. "I won't order anyone to go. This is a volunteer mission only." Ryan stepped forward first. "I'll command the tactical systems." "I'll handle the drive," said Olivia. Frank shrugged. "Someone needs to keep this thing running." "I'm in." From the back of the room, Communications Officer Nicole Johnson spoke up. "I need to go too." "Why?" Susan asked. "Because I can feel the ship. I know it sounds crazy, but I can sense where it wants to go, how it wants to move. We need that connection." Susan looked at Alan, who nodded slightly. "Approved. The 4 of you will crew the Pathfinder. Your mission is to delay the Draconite fleet any way you can, while we evacuate as many people as possible to underground shelters." As the 4 volunteers prepared to board, Frank took one last look at the odd-shaped ship. "She's ugly, but she's ours." "Let's hope she's tough too," Ryan said. Inside the ship, Nicole settled into the communication station, but found herself able to sense much more than just incoming signals. She could somehow feel the dimensional space around them, as if it were water, and she could detect every ripple. "This is strange," she told Olivia. "I can almost see the dimensional pathways." "That shouldn't be possible," Olivia replied, checking Nicole's medical readings. "Human brains aren't supposed to perceive higher dimensions." "Well, mine does now." The launch countdown began. The massive chamber above them opened, revealing a long tunnel to the surface. "Pathfinder, you are cleared for emergency launch," came Susan's voice over the comms. "Good luck. Earth is counting on you." Ryan looked at his small crew. Ready to make history. Frank managed a tense smile. One way or another. The ship rose smoothly, dimensional echoes trailing behind it like ghostly twins. As it reached the surface, sensors showed the first wave of Draconite ships entering Earth orbit. "They're early," Ryan said. "No time for a test run." Activating dimensional drive now. The familiar blue glow surrounded the ship. For a moment, everyone felt like they were being pulled in 1,000 directions at once. Then reality seemed to bend, and the Pathfinder jumped forward into its first battle. From the Draconite command ship, Admiral Vex watched as a strange vessel appeared seemingly from nowhere. "What is that?" he demanded. His science officer studied the readings. "Unknown, sir. It appears to be moving through dimensions we cannot access." Vex narrowed his eyes. "Impossible. The humans are primitives." "Sir, it's charging weapons." "Destroy it," Vex ordered. "Show these humans what real power looks like." A beam of red energy shot past the Pathfinder, missing by inches. "Evasive maneuvers," Colonel Ryan Bennett shouted, gripping his chair as the ship lurched to the side. Frank Miller's hands flew across the engineering console. "The dimensional drive is stable, but I don't know how long it'll hold with these stress levels." Through the view screen, they watched as 3 Draconite warships moved toward them. Each was at least 10 times larger than the Pathfinder, shaped like giant arrowheads with glowing red patterns along their hulls. "Target the nearest ship and fire missiles," Ryan ordered. The Pathfinder shuddered as it launched its first attack. 4 missiles streaked toward the lead Draconite vessel. The crew watched with hope, but their expressions fell as the missiles hit an invisible shield and exploded harmlessly. "Dimensional shielding," Olivia Carter said, "just like the Commonwealth ships. Our conventional weapons can't penetrate it." Another energy beam struck the Pathfinder directly. The ship rocked violently, and alarms blared throughout the bridge. "Hull breach in Section 3, Frank reported. "Sealing it now." Ryan looked grim. "We can't win this fight. Not like this." He turned to Nicole Johnson. "Any ideas? You're the one with the special connection to this ship." Nicole closed her eyes, feeling the strange awareness that had been growing since the first test. The dimensional space around them wasn't empty. It was full of paths, currents, and angles that normal human senses couldn't detect. "We need to retreat," she said suddenly. "I can feel a safe place, behind Saturn." Ryan hesitated for only a moment. "Do it." Olivia engaged the dimensional drive based on Nicole's directions. The world outside the view screen twisted, stretched, and then snapped back into focus. Saturn's massive form filled their view, its rings glittering in the sunlight. "We're safe for now," Nicole said. "They won't find us here." Frank checked the damage reports. "We need time to make repairs." That hit did more damage than it should have. While Frank worked on the ship, Olivia studied the sensor readings from their brief battle. Something caught her attention. "Look at this," she called to the others. "The Draconites are using 5th-dimensional shielding, but our ship operates on 7th-dimensional principles." Ryan frowned. "What does that mean for us?" "It means we're fighting from the wrong angle," Olivia said, excitement growing in her voice. "It's like they're defending a door while we could be coming through the ceiling." Frank joined them, wiping grease from his hands. "Can we modify our weapons to attack from the 7th dimension?" "Theoretically, yes." Olivia began making calculations on her tablet. "If we route energy from the dimensional drive directly into the weapons systems, our attacks would hit them from a dimensional angle they can't defend against." For the next hour, Frank and Olivia worked frantically to modify the Pathfinder's weapons. Nicole sat quietly at her station, eyes closed, seemingly following the invisible currents of higher dimensional space. "Ready for a test," Frank finally announced. Ryan nodded. "Let's go hunting." The Pathfinder emerged from behind Saturn, just as a pair of Draconite scout ships passed by. Before they could react, Ryan targeted the nearest one and fired. The modified missile seemed to flicker in and out of reality as it traveled. When it struck the Draconite ship, there was no explosion at first, just a strange ripple in space. Then the scout ship simply came apart, its pieces floating away in different directions, as if the force holding it together had vanished. "It worked," Frank shouted. The second scout ship turned to flee, but Ryan fired again. The result was the same. The enemy vessel was destroyed without even being able to raise an alarm. Nicole opened her eyes. "I can sense their main fleet. They're spreading out, looking for us. They don't understand what happened to their scouts." Ryan smiled for the first time since the mission began. "Let's show them." In the hours that followed, the Pathfinder struck at the edges of the Draconite fleet like a wolf picking off stragglers. Their 7th-Dimensional weapons passed through the enemy shields as if they weren't there. Ship after ship fell to their attacks. Admiral Vex watched with growing horror as his force began reporting inexplicable losses. "What is happening?" he demanded of his science officer. "The human ship, it's not fighting by any rules we understand," the officer replied, his scales pale with fear. "Sir, I recommend we regroup. We need time to analyze this technology." Vex hissed in anger, but gave the order. The Draconite fleet began to pull back, away from Earth. News of the Pathfinder's success spread quickly. Within hours of the Draconite retreat, the Commonwealth Council called an emergency meeting. This time, Admiral Susan Taylor and Dr. Alan Wright were not seated at the lowest tier. They were invited to the central speaking platform. The council head sphere pulsed with urgent blue lights. "We have received reports that Earth's defensive capabilities are unexpected. Please explain how you repelled a Draconite attack force that outnumbered you 100 to 1. Susan smiled slightly. "It seems our primitive technology had some advantages after all." Alan stepped forward. "We developed a method of traveling through and manipulating the 7th dimension." A shocked murmur spread through the chamber. Ambassador Zix's silver skin turned almost white. "Impossible," Zix said. 7th-dimensional physics is theoretical at best. No species has successfully harnessed it. "Until now," Susan replied. The council head sphere drifted closer. "We request immediate access to this technology. For the good of all Commonwealth species, of course." "Of course," Susan said, her voice cool. "Just as you offered immediate help when the Draconites targeted Earth." Silence fell across the chamber. "Perhaps," Alan suggested, "we could discuss a more equitable arrangement. Earth will share information about our 7th-dimensional drive if the Commonwealth commits its fleets to Earth's defense." The council members whispered among themselves. Finally, the council head spoke again. "Agreed. Commonwealth defensive fleets will be dispatched to Earth immediately." Back on Earth, the Pathfinder sat in its underground facility, undergoing rapid repairs. Frank worked tirelessly, replacing damaged systems and strengthening others. "How bad is it?" Colonel Ryan asked, bringing coffee to the exhausted engineer. "Could be worse," Frank said, taking the cup gratefully. "The dimensional drive is intact, which is the main thing. But we need to better understand how it works if we want to use it effectively in combat." In the testing lab nearby, Olivia and Nicole were conducting experiments. Olivia had set up sensors around a small model of the Pathfinder's dimensional core, while Nicole sat with her eyes closed, describing what she felt. "It's like seeing roads where everyone else sees empty space," Nicole explained. "The 7th dimension has patterns, currents. I can feel where they're strong and where they're weak." Olivia made notes on her tablet. "And this ability only developed after exposure to the core." "Yes, it started during the first test and gets stronger every time we activate the drive." Their conversation was interrupted when a group of visitors entered the facility. Admiral Taylor led the way, accompanied by Dr. Wright and 3 aliens, 2 Sorelians, and a being made of what looked like blue crystal. This is Ambassador Zix and Science Director Lix of the Sorelian Empire, Susan introduced, and Council Representative Krell of the Zetrarian Collective. They're here to observe. The way Susan emphasized the last word made it clear she didn't trust their motives. Zix stepped forward, all four arms clasped in what might have been a respectful gesture. We are most impressed by your achievement. The Commonwealth is eager to help develop this technology further. You mean steal it? Frank muttered under his breath. Krell's crystalline body shimmered. We have concerns about dimensional stability. Seventh-dimensional manipulation could have unforeseen consequences for the fabric of reality itself. Our tests show no signs of dimensional instability, Olivia replied firmly. Lix moved toward the ship, scanning it with a small device. Fascinating construction. Rather crude, but effective. May I examine the dimensional core? No, Susan said flatly. The core remains classified until our agreement is finalized. The aliens looked disappointed but not surprised. Later, after the visitors had left, the crew gathered in the control room. They're scared of us, Ryan observed. Alan nodded. Yesterday we were cosmic infants. Today we're the only species with a weapon that can defeat the Draconites. Speaking of which, Susan said, our sensors show the Draconite fleet regrouping. They'll attack again, and soon. We'll be ready, Frank promised. I've reinforced the hull and expanded our weapons capacity. Nicole looked troubled. There's something else. During the tests with Olivia, I noticed something strange. The dimensional tiers we create heal faster when humans are operating the ship compared to when we run automated tests. What does that mean? Ryan asked. Olivia's eyes widened as understanding dawned. It means there's something unique about human consciousness, something that interacts with higher dimensions in ways even the Commonwealth races don't. The space around Earth filled with ships. The Commonwealth fleet had arrived early, 50 vessels of various sizes, their hulls gleaming with advanced metals unknown to human science. They moved into defensive positions, their weapons powered and ready. On the Pathfinder's bridge, Colonel Ryan Bennett watched the tactical display with mixed feelings. I don't trust them, he said to Admiral Taylor over the comlink. Yesterday they wouldn't give us the time of day. Today they're our best friends. They're not friends, Susan replied from Earth Command. They're scared. Both of the Draconites and of us. Just focus on the mission. The mission was simple on paper. Work with the Commonwealth fleet to stop the returning Draconite armée. But Ryan knew it wouldn't be that easy. The Draconites would have adapted their tactics after the first battle. Frank entered the bridge, looking exhausted but satisfied. All systems at full capacity. I've rerouted power to give us more shots with the 7th-dimensional weapons. Nicole sat at her station, eyes closed in concentration. They're coming. I can feel them moving through the dimensions. They've changed something in their shields. How long? Ryan asked. Minutes, Nicole answered. Olivia checked her instruments. Commonwealth fleet is signaling readiness. They've shared their attack plan. They want us to stay back and let them handle the main assault. Ryan snorted. So they can see how we fight. Not a chance. We'll take point position. The Draconite fleet emerged from 5th-dimensional space with stunning force. Over 200 warships, larger and more heavily armed than before. They immediately launched an attack on the Commonwealth ships. The battle began with a blaze of energy weapons and dimensional distortions. Commonwealth ships moved with practiced precision, firing in coordinated patterns. But something was wrong. Their weapons aren't working, Frank shouted, watching the sensors. The Draconites have adapted their shields. On the main Commonwealth vessel, Admiral Krell of the Sorelian fleet watched in horror as his ship's attacks bounced harmlessly off the Draconite shields. Impossible, he muttered. They've developed 6th-dimensional shielding in days. A communication officer approached nervously. Sir, the human ship is requesting permission to attack. Let them try, Krell said dismissively. Their luck won't hold twice. The Pathfinder moved forward, accelerating toward the enemy fleet. Draconite ships turned to focus on this new threat, remembering the damage it had caused before. "They're targeting us with everything they have," Frank warned as the ship shook under the first barrage. Nicole suddenly opened her eyes. "I see it now. They're not using 6th-dimensional shielding. They're rapidly shifting between 5th and 6th dimensions to create a layered defense." "Can we get through it?" Ryan asked. Olivia's fingers flew across her console. "Yes, but not the way we did before." "Nicole, can you feel the pattern of their shifts?" Nicole nodded. "Yes, there's a rhythm to it. We need to time our attacks to hit them during the transition between dimensions," Olivia explained. Ryan gave the order. "Target the lid ship and fire on Nicole's mark." Nicole closed her eyes again, feeling the dimensional currents. 3, 2, 1, now. The Pathfinder fired. Its weapons phased through space in a way that made them seem to vanish and reappear. When they struck the Draconite ship, the effect was catastrophic. The enemy vessel didn't just take damage. It partially phased out of normal space, caught between dimensions. "It worked," Frank shouted. Ryan opened a channel to the Commonwealth fleet. "Target their ships when we tell you to fire. We can see the gaps in their defenses." What followed was unlike any battle in galactic history. The Pathfinder moved through the enemy fleet, seemingly dancing between energy beams and missiles. Nicole called out the timing. Olivia adjusted the weapons, and Ryan coordinated with the Commonwealth ships. One by one, Draconite vessels were destroyed or disabled, unable to defend against attacks that came from dimensional angles they couldn't protect against. Admiral Vex watched his mighty fleet crumble with disbelief. "Retreat," he finally ordered. "Full retreat to home space." The surviving Draconite ships fled, jumping into 5th-dimensional space and vanishing. On the Pathfinder, the exhausted crew could barely celebrate their victory. They had won, but they knew this was just the beginning. "It's not over," Nicole said quietly. "They'll be back with new tactics, new technology." Ryan nodded grimly. "But so will we." 3 months after the battle, Earth had changed. Commonwealth technology flowed freely now, elevating human civilization almost overnight. In return, scientists from dozens of alien races studied the Pathfinder, trying to understand how humans had accomplished what they thought impossible. In the underground facility, now expanded to 3 times its original size, Frank supervised a team of human and alien engineers building 5 new ships based on the Pathfinder's design. "No, the dimensional core has to be aligned exactly like this," he told a Xorelian engineer. "Otherwise, the 7th-dimensional field collapses." The Xorelian made the adjustment but looked frustrated. "I've built 5th and 6th-dimensional drives for 40 years. Why can't I make this work properly?" Frank shrugged. "We're still figuring that out ourselves." In a nearby laboratory, Olivia and scientists from 3 different worlds ran tests on human volunteers. None showed Nicole's ability to perceive higher dimensions, but many displayed faint signs of dimensional awareness after exposure to the core. "It's something in human brain structure," Olivia explained to Dr. Alan Wright during his inspection tour. "Our minds evolved differently from other sentient species." Alan nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps because Earth's history was so chaotic. We developed along unpredictable paths." In the Commonwealth Council chamber, Admiral Susan Taylor stood on the central platform, no longer a junior representative, but Earth's ambassador with full voting rights. The chamber had changed too. The tiered seating was gone, replaced by a circular arrangement where all species sat as equals. "Earth proposes a joint exploration initiative," Susan announced. "Our 7th-dimensional ships can reach regions of space previously inaccessible to the Commonwealth." The council head, now an elected position rather than an inherited one, responded enthusiastically. "The motion passes unanimously. The joint fleet will launch next month." On the day of the launch, the Pathfinder, now upgraded, reinforced, and properly equipped, prepared to lead the expedition. Nicole Johnson sat at her station, feeling the familiar connection to the ship but stronger now, more focused. Colonel Ryan Bennett, recently promoted to fleet commander, addressed the crew. 3 months ago, they laughed at us, called us cosmic infants. Today, we're taking them to places they never dreamed of reaching. Frank, now chief engineer of the entire Earth fleet, checked the final systems. Ready for dimensional jump. Dr. Olivia Carter, who had become the foremost expert on 7th-dimensional physics in the galaxy, confirmed her readings. All ships showing green status. Nicole closed her eyes, feeling the invisible paths through higher dimensions. I can see the way forward. It's beautiful. Ryan smiled. Take us out, Nicole. Let's show the galaxy what humans can really do. The Pathfinder's engines glowed with blue-white light. Reality seemed to fold around the ship, and then it was gone, moving through the 7th dimension toward uncharted regions of the universe. In the Commonwealth Council chamber, Ambassador Zix watched the departure on the main screen. Another Xorelian counselor leaned toward him. They went from laughingstocks to leaders in 3 months, the counselor whispered. How did we miss their potential? Zix's silver skin shimmered with what might have been embarrassment. We judged them by our standards, not theirs. A mistake I don't think anyone will make again. The galaxy had indeed laughed at Earth once, but no one was laughing now.